The northeast of Nigeria has been a battlefield for years, and while we've all heard the horror stories of violence, bloodshed, and destruction, there are moments that slip through the cracks, moments that hint at a glimmer of hope. Recently, the Nigerian army made a breakthrough that could potentially shift the balance in the fight against terror. In a remarkable turn of events, 3 notorious terrorists, including Fannami Ari, known as Abu Dujana, and Hussaini Hassan Modu or Abu Yusuf, decided to lay down their arms. They weren't captured in battle, nor were they taken hostage. No, these men voluntarily gave up their weapons and surrendered to Nigerian troops in the areas of Kukawa and Damboa in Borno State. This isn't just a small victory, it's a sign of something bigger at play. These terrorists, once fully immersed in the ideology and the violence that has wreaked havoc in the region, suddenly lost their faith in the very cause they fought for. They cited a loss of confidence in their leaders and the worsening conditions within their camps. Think about that for a second. These were men who had once believed in the mission they were a part of, but now they are questioning everything. The structures that were once rigid and full of discipline seem to be falling apart, and these men are no longer willing to be part of that decay. This defection is a powerful reminder of the internal struggles that happen within these groups. When the leaders lose control, when the ideology crumbles, when the conditions are no longer sustainable, cracks start to form. These men weren't forced to surrender. They chose it. The conditions in the camps had become unbearable. Supplies were running low, the morale was depleted, and the constant fear of being attacked or captured was too much to bear. And when that happens, when the cause is no longer a source of strength, some people begin to see the light and make the choice to walk away. For these 3 men, surrender wasn't an act of weakness, but rather a desperate attempt to find something different from the brutal life they had been living. Now let's put this in perspective. This isn't an isolated incident. Over the last few months, the Nigerian military has reported multiple surrenders across the northeast. It's not just about 3 terrorists giving up. It's about a larger pattern that could change the course of the insurgency. Each time a fighter defects, it's one less person fighting, one less person willing to carry out the violence that scarred communities for so long. And when these fighters surrender, it's not just about the loss of manpower for the insurgents, it's also about intelligence. The Nigerian army now has 3 former combatants who can speak about the inner workings of the group. They know the routes, the hideouts, the weapons caches, the training camps. That's information the military can use to dismantle the group piece by piece. But there's more to this than just military strategy. What does this mean for the communities in these areas? For years, places like Kukawa and Damboa have lived under the constant threat of terror. People have watched as their homes were burned, their loved ones kidnapped, their livelihoods destroyed. The very foundation of these communities has been rocked to its core. But the surrender of these 3 men could be the start of something different, a sign that the war isn't as one-sided as it once seemed, a hint that peace may not be as far off as it once appeared. For these communities, the road to recovery will be long and fraught with challenges. There's no denying that. But small victories like these are what they need to keep moving forward. And let's not forget the psychological impact this has on the people who've been living in fear. When a terror group starts to lose its grip, when fighters begin to question their leadership, it sends a message. It tells the people still living under the shadow of insurgency that they're not entirely forgotten, that they're not always powerless. It tells them that even the mightiest groups can fall apart, that even the strongest of forces can lose their resolve. However, while this surrender is a positive development, we cannot get complacent. We must acknowledge that these terrorists are not all gone. There are still many fighters on the run, still many more who are willing to fight. The insurgents might be struggling, but they are far from defeated. The military will need to keep up the pressure, and the government must ensure that the areas which have been liberated remain secure. It's not enough to just defeat the fighters. The regions they've terrorized need to be rebuilt, and the civilians who were displaced need to be brought home. The challenge is as much about reconstruction as it is about combat. And here's the real challenge. What happens to the fighters who surrender? The Nigerian government and military have a difficult task ahead of them. These aren't just criminals. These are men who have been radicalized, men who have lived through a life of violence, and men who may feel like they have no place in society once they lay down their arms. The military's job is to neutralize the threat, but it's also important to ensure that these former fighters don't return to violence later on. Reintegration programs, education, and rehabilitation are key to breaking the cycle of violence. It's not just about capturing them and locking them up. It's about offering them a way out. This is where the larger issue of radicalization comes in. For years, these groups have preyed on the vulnerable. They've used the hardships faced by impoverished communities, the frustration of young people with no future, to recruit them into the ranks. And while military pressure is essential, we must also focus on creating opportunities for these young people so they don't find themselves pulled into the cycle of extremism again. It's about offering hope, opportunity, and a future outside of violence. It's not just about military victory, it's about winning the peace. The path ahead won't be easy, but it is possible. It will take time, it will take effort, and it will require the cooperation of the government, the military, and the people. But when we look at moments like this, when terrorists give up because they no longer believe in the cause, we see that it is possible for even the most violent groups to be weakened, to be defeated. It may not happen overnight, but with continued pressure, with effective reintegration programs, and with a focus on rebuilding communities, we could one day see a Northeast that's free from insurgency. So, let's take a moment to think about this progress, but also remember that the fight is far from over. These small victories, these surrenders, are part of a much larger picture. The road to peace will be long, but it's worth every step. And as we keep watching and hoping for more positive developments, we'll stay focused, stay informed, and keep pushing for the day when Nigeria can finally see lasting peace. If you found this update valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Stay informed, stay safe, and we'll continue to bring you the latest updates as they happen.